Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me again, and here's another update on the 1964 Dodge Custom 880. This one's a water pump housing slash water pump replacement and thermostat also. It's been a couple years since I replaced them, so I think it's time to kind of start replacing a thermostat, because I think 7 years-ish. That's how old the thermostat is that's in the car right now. So I should probably get around to replacing it soon with another beefier one, if possible. And some performance along the way, because I'm replacing the water pump housing with an aluminum one from CVF Racing. I'll give the part number soon with everything that's on the car, or that's on the radiator right now. So these are the parts that I'm pretty much going to be using today. The crown of the show is CVF Racing's aluminum water pump housing. I'll leave the part number top right, maybe just top of the screen. When I find it, I kind of forgot the part number for it, but I'll leave it on the screen right now or so. And we're going to be using, this is from my old parts pile, but this is a gasket for the water pump housing to water pump gasket, and a thermostat housing gasket also included. The part number is a 11730. I believe this is a Felpro gasket. I bought it a couple of years back. And over here I'm going to be running a, let's see, there it is, I think you can see that. It's a Gates 33038S. That thermostat is 180 degrees and has a, well, it's just better than the other variant, which is the non-S variant. This is apparently the better version. And these are the water pump housing to block gaskets I'm going to be using. It's a Felpro 11730. So that's what we're going to be using. And the water pump. Honestly, I think if your water pump is not leaking, I guess it wouldn't, you don't really have to replace it. But if your water pump housing also is kind of like this, where it has like these little let's see, these little areas where the heater connections or heater hose connections attaches to, I'm gonna plug them off. That you need plugs like this. I believe this is a 5/8, and this is 9/16 or ½ inch. I forgot which one, but both of these are 9/16. I believe that's what it was. And then this one's a 5/8 plug. I'm going to be using brass plugs because I heard steel plugs will like seize against the aluminum, and these steel plugs will chew up the aluminum also. So I'm not going to be going too in-depth or nitty-gritty on every little detail on this job. Well, to get started on this job, you got to get a catch pan. Also, a catch pan is probably what you need also. Catch pan, and I already preemptively started draining the radiator fluid or coolant out, and I'm just gonna pretty much yank off the radiator hose up top, top radiator hose, excuse me, and we'll start unbolting parts from there. So status update. The thermostat housing has been removed, and the heater hosing has been removed, and the fan and the, what is it, the fan clutch has been removed as a pair, and the pretty much the idler pulley that's laying right here, and the belt also, and I'm left right over there. Yeah, so this is the collection of parts I'm going to be leaving over here. So in a little while I will once again update once pretty much the water pump housing is off. So update, and you can see a similar landscape. The housing is off again, and The housing is right over here. If you want to take a look at it. You have the casting number up here, 2205862, and with this little symbol that kind of looks like a A, upside down A in this case, and that looks like upside down 5 and 5 over here. So I'm wondering, actually, this might be the casting date here. It's a 9 by 9x25. I'll have to look at that up on the decoder, or if there is one online, and I'll just kind of read around a bit. But yeah, the housing is off, and surprising how heavy this housing is. So next I'm going to be removing the water pump housing heater tubes or pipes here, because it blocks this bolt from coming out. And how I got this housing off was I would unscrew it and pull the housing from the block bit by bit as I unscrewed this bolt here. So that made it possible for me to remove the housing without removing this tube here. But now that it's out of the car, I can physically place it onto the vise or the bench or anywhere, what have you, and pretty much remove the bolt, or actually remove this pipe here where I can get at it. It's more, well, accessible. You have the thermostat, or I mean the temperature sending unit up there, and this housing, surprisingly, I don't remember it being this dirty, but there is a lot of sand in there, which is interesting. Anyway, now onto the new housing. Oh, actually, it'll be kind of interesting to have it side by side. And there you go, left and right, side by side. Now this side has the water pump still on it, and you know, I think it's a good thing that I'm replacing the water pump also, because look at this. It's some fluid is coming out of the weep hole, and I believe some weeping is all right. Like, you know, you don't need to replace the water pump, but in this case, I think I do need to replace it, because that looks a little bit more than a few drops worth of fluid. So far I'm just moving all of the hardware that's present on the older water pump housing and moving it to the new housing, such as the temperature sending unit up here. I just got that off, and let's see, I was able to remove these heater hose nipples or tubes, and was able to remove this bolt that was hiding right behind this tube here, right here, right on that hole right there. If I didn't remove this tube here, that bolt wouldn't come out because it's blocking the way, if you can see that. Yeah. And yeah, listening to some good old-fashioned Glenn Miller while I'm assembling this also. And I guess we're gonna be trying to bolt this water pump housing on to the block, and I think we're pretty much done then. The housing is in so far. I haven't bolted it down completely, but be warned though, this is a big warning. On CVF Racing's aluminum water pump housing, this bracket here that you see here that connects to the AC compressor here, will not bolt on, as if I were to try to make it bolt on, this pulley would rub up against this bracket. So unfortunately, the cause of this problem here is that this ear, right, this mounting ear right here, this spot right here sticks out more than usual than the older one. So keep a mental image like that for a moment. So keep an eye on that length right there. Now we're going to compare it to the old one. Now I've got the old one right here, and you can pretty much see this top portion where the power steering pump brackets into is much shorter, meaning the power steering the compressor or AC compressor can bracket right into this older housing here, but not the new one. You see that? The length difference? The difference is day and night right there. On CVF Racing's one is pretty much identical as the bottom length as is the top length. So be warned on that. How am I going to find a remedy for this issue? Well, I'm not going to really be doing anything drastic to it, but I was contemplating on grinding down this housing here, just shave it down just a little bit so I can utilize this bracket again. Since removing the housing would disturb the gasket surfaces that I've got down there, I don't think I'm gonna do anything to it. Instead, I'm probably just gonna tighten down this bolt that's right between there and get it out of the way so that the this bracket just doesn't come into contact with this pulley here. It'll look quote-unquote jank, which means pretty much ghetto, but this will have to just kind of stay down there just like that without it bolting into anything. Yeah, I'm not very happy with how the aluminum housing is like that. So unfortunately, CVF Racing did come up just a little bit short. They didn't get that length correct, unless, just like all the other aftermarket car manufacturers, they're prioritizing parts toward cars that don't have AC. Mine's got AC, so that's kind of unfortunate that this housing probably doesn't accommodate the housing, or this housing doesn't accommodate the cars with the AC. And one more thing, it's a little bit of a modification I made, but this is the old thermostat that came out, and here's a new one. Now you may be wondering, what the hell is that hole right there? Now, when I bought this thermostat, I was looking through the pictures and going through the entire description of it and whatnot, and it said that it would include like this little dingleberry little rattle bleeder. This didn't have it, just like this one. I believe this one is the same one. This one's the non-S version. This is the S version, so this one's more beefier than stock. But the same stock temperatures though, 180, if you can see right there. Now, I drilled out a 1/8 hole right there so that this will aid in some bleeding of the air inside the cooling system, so that it's not like this one where it's like completely shut off and it can't circulate coolant. So as I'm pouring the fluid in here, it'll gladly go down into the housing and, well, just make bleeding easier because of this hole here. Aside from that, housing is in. I'm going to get the prepare the water pump to go in, and then put the thermostat housing back on. There's quite a bit of I guess you can say a gap between the sparse amount of parts that's not been assembled, and pretty much now, is cut to the chase, it's pretty much assembled. It's pretty good. Of course, the power steering pump also is on. Now, unfortunately, since the original housing was actually shorter just by a little bit, I cannot make this little power steering bracket work, this piece right here. So that would connect to the first pivot point of the pump down there. And of course, the thickness of that pivot point on the housing is a lot thicker than the original one, which is, yeah, unfortunate because I can't use that original bracket there. So it's gonna look quote unquote jank with that rod kind of, the bracket hanging out. I had to take off the thermostat housing bolts off again because they were leaking, and this is always a particular leak that it's kind of not really fixable. So then I took some pipe dope that is used on pipe fittings for propane gas tanks and such, just like the one in the back. This one was really hard to get to all the way in the back there, if you can see that. Yeah, you're working with pinky fingers when you're trying to get to that bolt there. So then here's a little thing I made a while back. This is pretty much the wrench that I use. It's a custom fabricated one, as you can see here. Now, once again, I'm not sponsored by these guys. I used the Husky brand and a stubby wrench set, as you can see. Stubby wrench set, and I carved down the end just a little bit so I can get more clearance to slip this wrench on into the back of the thermostat housing bolt. This was pretty much the only tool for this job. Any other wrench would not work. So pretty much, yeah, I had to use this and custom fabricate this tool to get that bolt on and off. This is what I used to seal the bolt up because it was leaking again. Yeah, pipe and thread sealant. That's pretty much what I used. I believe it's called pipe dope for the people at, I don't know, that works on piping and gas equipment and such. Now, aside from that, I think this will be the end of the video. Differences of the the temperature gauge is, honestly, I don't exactly know. I don't know if that aluminum helped of the cooling just a little bit or not, but definitely there's just too many variables. I can't call it out that the aluminum housing did improve the cooling because there's too many variables to consider. You know, the water pump could have been wearing out, the thermostat could have been wearing out, the temperature gauge sender unit could have been faulty, that sort of thing. So honestly, I don't know. But aside from that, it does look pretty, especially with the new water pump also. And I really like it how the the plugs down there really contrast quite well with the aluminum housing. So aside from that, I think this video is done here. And please comment, rate, subscribe, and please look at my channel, I guess. Thanks.